Welcome to Tommy Solo's Famous Friends. This is where I get to chat with people I've connected with over the years in the world of arts and entertainment. And today I have the extreme pleasure of talking to Chris McKhool from the Sultans of String. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thanks so much for having me here, Tommy.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure. Now, just to give people a little bit of a background, and I know we're here to promote the new album and the date that's coming up at the George Weston Recital Hall and Meridian Arts Center in Toronto, December 7th. But the Sultans of String has been around for quite a while. Can you tell me what inspired you to do this sort of a thing? It's a multicultural kind of experience for people who are into the music.
It's actually 20 years now that we're celebrating as a band, which is, longer than most marriages. And it started off almost by chance. I was running a jazz quartet in Toronto, and I had a gentleman, a guitar player, sub out of our gig to take another gig. And he sent Kevin La Liberté in his place. And I heard Kevin warming up with this rumba flamenca guitar rhythm. And I was like, man, that sounds amazing. Like, what is that? And he said, that's rumba flamenca. It's the coolest rhythm around. And I learned that you can play any song, like in this case, a couple of the Christmas songs, with the rumba rhythm behind it, and it gives it so much energy and drive. And I was like, let's start playing together. Let's write music together. And along the way, we met so many other people. So Kevin, he came from that rumba background as well as, a very heavy jazz background. Excuse me. And then we've got Drew Burston on bass, who had been performing on large pop stages with artists like Chantal Kraviazuk, as well as doing a lot of jazz work. And I grew up playing classical violin, but of course, as a violin player, I learned some East Coast fiddling, and I dabbled in Arabic music a little bit from my ancestry, where my last name McKhool would have been pronounced McKhool. And in Toronto, I was sitting in with a band called Club Django, playing that music, that incredible music, Django jazz, as performed by the late great Django Reinhardt and Stefan Grappelli. We take all those influences and we bring it, in this case, to the Christmas songs that people like to hear this time of year, along with a few originals. So, there's a beautiful song. You know the song "Carol of the Bells"?
Yes. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. So, that's the name that was given to the song when somebody wrote lyrics to it. But even older than that, it's a Ukrainian New Year's carol called Shetedrik. And so we take that song and we play it in a rumba bulerías fashion, along like mashing it up with one of our own rumba songs called El Vuelo. So that's one of the pieces I know that you have queued up there to play, and one of the things we'll be playing with Orchestra Toronto on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that from my experience as a musician, when I encounter people who play the violin, they're either what I would call a violinist or a fiddler. And you have a much wider palette. The fiddler is the kitchen party, the
Yeah.
maple leaf rag and that kind of thing. And I tend to think of the violin as more of a symphonic instrument, but you're not boxed in any way. And the people that you've worked with, I mean, God, you've worked with the Chieftains, Alex Cuba, David Bromberg, to name a few. And there are how many albums? 9 albums?
Well, 10 if you include our 10th anniversary vinyl album that we
Okay.
created
And
10
you've
years ago.
you've also worked with indigenous peoples. There was one called Walking Through the Fire that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it was really and continues to be a very beautiful and special project. We had the opportunity to work with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit artists, literally from coast to coast to coast. It started off just as an album, and then the Performing Arts Center started asking us, "Hey, can we put this on live?" And I was like, this is impossible to do live. It's too big. It's too complicated." But the Flauto Markham Theater was like, we need this. We need this for our audience. I'm going to give you a budget. I'm going to give you the theater for a week so you can fly people in and workshop it. And we're still touring it to this day. And then we turned it into a feature film, which is available, in church basements and performing arts centers all over the place.
Wow, that's really cool. That is really cool. Now, I know that the focus right now is the Orchestra Toronto gig on December 7th. Once again, that's at the George Weston Recital Hall at Meridian Arts Center in Toronto. What's coming up after Christmas for you all?
Yeah, so it's you know it's not it's not getting easier and easier to make a living as a musician. I'm sure that you've been hearing with your other artists, right? The cost of touring has gone up. CD sales have declined, and that used to be really the 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 cash that would pay for the gas and the food while you're on the road. So what I've done to try and compensate for that is like every new project that we create, we keep it on the roster. So we're currently touring the Christmas show, and we've got that big show on December 7th. And then we're taking that to Burlington, by the way, on December 19th, and Midland on December 20th, and then Kleinberg, the McMichael Gallery on December 21st. But then after that, we're continuing to tour all of our shows. So we've got Walking Through the Fire, along with our Indigenous collaborators. We're still touring the Refuge Project, which honors the contributions of new immigrants and refugees to Canada and is a very special show. We tour still as a duo, trio, quartet. And then we also just released this new album called Little Leaf. And it's for young audiences, it's for families, and it's a celebration of the environment. Um, Really fun sing along songs for kids. And then all of these shows can also be performed with symphonies. So it's a little bit like mutual funds. Like you have a lot of variety on the go, and sometimes something's up, sometimes something's down, but we're always on tour. And I feel really, really fortunate to be able to be a live touring musician because in this crazy time where AI seems to be taking over everything, like half the music on Spotify is AI. And ironically, people pay for streams. So you've got computers listening to music that was created by computers. It's just like now the whole thing is just for computers to enjoy themselves. The live concert experience is the one thing you can't duplicate, you can't rip off, you can't replace. And it touches you in the heart and it moves you and it reminds us of our common humanity. It reminds us of the importance of community and taking care of one another. And that's the best thing that I feel we can do as musicians right now in this crazy time.
Absolutely. And it's such a diverse environment that you're putting yourself into, and I think that's a really good way to keep things fresh. And as a musician, for years and years, I was Danny Marks from the Blues FM and Edward Bear called me a
Mhm.
journeyman guitarist at one point in time. So I spent a lot of time being a lead guitar player in other people's bands. And one of the ways I could keep it fresh was to work with other people. And a while ago, I was on tour with a band called Mason Dixon Line. Getting back to the indigenous thing, we toured the Powwow Trail, and there's a lot of power and energy when you play in front of a live audience. But I find that the indigenous people,
Mhm.
there's something spiritual there that you can't find anywhere else. That I find.
It's been an incredible project, and like early on, we got to meet with Murray Sinclair, who literally wrote the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's final report and 94 calls to action. And that's what really inspired that project. One of those calls to action is to call on Canada Council as a funding priority to a strategy for Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists to work together to show a path forward. And so, working with these artists, it's been a tremendous opportunity to learn so much about their own stories and their histories and the true history of the residential school experience in this country. Sometimes it feels like very heavy subject material, and sometimes it's just it's really fun and really celebratory. Like the show kind of has it all, kind of has it all. But we got to work with Crystal Shawanda, and we tour with Mark Marilanen and his Najuan project. We tour with Shannon Thunderbird from the Pacific Northwest, and Dr. Duke Redbird, Ojibwe elder, Alyssa Delbar Sachuk from the Métis Fiddler Quartet, Leela Gilday. The list just goes on and on. Inuit throat singers. We're just so blessed. And then we also took that to on an orchestra tour as well, to be able to bring those songs to the very limit of Western art culture, which is a real trip. And one of the things I really wanted to do was help increase the capacity for orchestras to feature Indigenous artists on their stages, because it's something that I know they want to do, but they don't always know the best way in. So we created the charts, we did the performances, and then at the end of the run, we just gave the charts to our Indigenous collaborators and said, "Here you go, try and keep this going. Like get your own gigs with your local orchestra."
And you're keeping things fresh on your side as well, and it's a very giving thing that you're doing with the Indigenous people. Now, you mentioned Crystal Shawanda. A number of years ago, I played up on Wickwimacong
Yeah, of
on
course.
Manitoulin Island, and I had people, have you do you know about our Crystal? And I didn't know who she was, and then I had the opportunity shortly after to hear her, and then I spoke with her on my show, and this was we were still really not doing much live music wise here in Canada, but they'd opened up in the States a little bit. And she said that she performed on this show and she was like the third act on or whatever. And she sang so hard she couldn't talk for 3 days. And that's like she is
Well,
just a ball of fire.
she's nothing but spirit and love, and yeah, it's been incredible to be able to work with her. And now this is she actually recorded on our Christmas album, and then she recorded on Walking Through the Fire, and she's in our Walking Through the Fire film. She's a tremendous artist, and there's something going on there in Wiki, as they say for short, because there are a bunch of artists that we've worked with from that community, not just Crystal, but Mark Marilanen, Najuan has roots there, and Lisa Ojig, one of the dancers that joins us when we perform live, and she's tremendous. She's a two-time world champion hoop dancer, so something very special there.
Certainly is, and I played at the Wiki Rodeo as well, and that's it. That's quite something. You have to be there to experience it. Now, I know that the Christmas show is happening. The shows are happening real soon, and we're looking forward to that. Why don't we give people a sample of Little Swallow, which is something you're going to feature in these shows?
It's a super, super fun piece to perform with the orchestra. It's based on Shtedrik. It's a Ukrainian folk carol, and that's the one that we married with our own original Bulerias, the song Al Vuelo.
Nice. Well, let's give the people a sample of what that's all about. Now that's really cool. I just wish that I could be at some of these shows because there's an awful lot of talent there, and you've got some special guests on you with this tour as well.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate to have such an embarrassment of riches with us on tour. We've got Ken Whiteley, who is almost like the grandfather of folk and blues and jazz and gospel music in Canada. He's a very famous producer and a great singer-songwriter. And in fact, we're going to be doing a world orchestral premiere of his really beautiful song called "The Light of Christmas" at this show with Orchestra Toronto under the direction of Michael Noonan. We've also got a wonderful singer, Aviva Chernik, who's going to be actually singing a Hanukkah song with us. And we've got Alberto Suarez from Cuba joining us. We've got Saskia Tompkins, who plays the nickel harpa, which is a really cool instrument from Sweden. Looks like it came out of Middle Earth. And we've got Singer to the Stars and a star in her own right, Rebecca Campbell, who is famous for singing Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen with us at Christmas time. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. We've got Kevin and Drew, of course, and the entire orchestra. So it's going to be a pretty big sound.
So tell me about the connection to Orchestra Toronto. And I know the orchestra has been around for over 100 years. Or not 100 years, sorry. They have over 100 members, and they've been around since the 50s. How did you connect with Orchestra Toronto?
We worked with Michael Newnham, the music director, a bunch of years ago. It might be like 10 years ago in Peterborough. And it's great when you connect with music directors like that because they always remember you if you've got good charts. And a lot of our orchestral scores were created by Rebecca Pellet. She's done scores for not just orchestras like the TSO, but also like IMAX and Hollywood films. And so they're really gorgeous and rich and broad sounding arrangements. They really pull you in, and every single instrument of the orchestra is playing interesting, juicy, rhythmic stuff. Sometimes in a Christmas show, like if there's a band like us, Sultans of String, a band might go in and they have an orchestra show, but the violins are just playing like whole notes the whole time. And they really hate that, and they get bored and they look bored. So what Rebecca does, she really puts a lot of really fun rhythmic action into the orchestra. So everyone's always like on the edge of their seat, and you can feel it in the audience. And yeah, so I guess Michael remembered us for that and brought us in for this show. And it's gonna be pretty amazing. I think there's gonna be like 80 people in the orchestra. That's a pretty big sound.
Wow. And it's always a challenge when it comes to musical arrangements to keep things alive and happening and to not be, as Frank Zappa had once said, the more notes you play, the more it sounds like honking geese. Now, finding where things sit in the track, and better yet, where they sit in a symphonic arrangement has got to be a real challenge. I know that you don't have a whole lot more time. Give us the shows and the dates one more time.
Sure thing, yeah. So this Sunday, December 7th, with Orchestra Toronto, and that's at the George Weston Recital Hall, Meridian Arts Center in North York. And then we've got, the next Sultans of String show is the 19th of December at the Burlington Performing Arts Center. That's a real treat because that one is being listed as a pay what you can, including free. And we've got a few more guests joining us. Tamara Lana, we've got the Oakville Children's Choir, we've got Christine St. Pierre, French chanteuse coming from Ottawa for that show. Then on the 20th, we're playing the Brookside series in Midland, which is one of our favorite places to play there. And on the 21st, we're doing a special kind of winter solstice version of the show at the McMichael Gallery. And that's another pay what you can, or maybe that's a free Family Sundays program. So I think it's free when you arrive there in Kleinburg. And then beyond that, people can check out all the details, all the ticket links at sultansofstring.com on the calendar page, and then look beyond that for all our other formations, shows, and everything from 2 to 100 people on stage.
Nice. Well, Chris McKhool, it has been very cool speaking with you. I don't want to take up your whole day, but I do want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with me. And until next time, cheers.
Thank you so much, Tommy. It's really an honor to be on your show.
Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including recording, editing, guest acquisition, etc. Don't forget to look for the accompanying articles based on these interviews at 519magazine.com. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a clip from my original composition, The Burn, all rights reserved. If you enjoy the show and you'd like to help us keep it going, why don't you click on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate it. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, cheers.